MED.
7:39. Will Hild joins me from Consumers Research, America's oldest consumer protection agency. 105 years? You folks been around?
On 100. We were 1929. We were formed.
Yeah, really? With the stock market crash, right? Is that when you kind of came?
Yeah, it was about. Yeah, it was basically that year. It was not related to that, but we were the first product review organization. We issued the first product review magazine in the country, Consumers Bulletin.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious. What was the first article or item you ever reviewed? I'll have to find that out sometime. Could be something like, the RCA Victrola here is really, you almost see something like that, right? You know,
it was something like that. We have a lot of our back issues in archive, and like you pick up some of the old magazines, and it's like a review of men's hats, which is not, it goes back to when men still
wore hats. Yeah. And you needed to find out who was doing a better haberdashery job, I suppose. All right.
Well, and some of them were lined with arsenic, which is one of the things our article talked about. So you had to be careful where you got them from.
Oh, that's right. Isn't that where they got the term "mad as a hatter," the Mad Hatter, that kind of thing?
I believe so. That's my understanding, and unfortunately, part of the reason our organization was necessary is that there was a lot of dangerous business practices going on. And so our founder, Arthur Schlink, basically started it to help warning consumers and protecting consumers. And so that's been our pedigree ever since.
Yeah, and you have to have someone looking over. It's always good to have someone who is, balanced, looking over the shoulder sometimes of what is going on there. And you have certainly been involved. We've talked before about the ESG and DEI initiatives that the financial world was so involved in. And the information coming out of the Trump administration was like a fire hose, right? I mean, you can't even keep track of everything that's been going on the last 2-3 days. But recently we had Fifth Circuit court win on DEI. DEI almost is starting to look like this, like a vampire that's having holy water sprinkled on it right now, and it's burning up and smoking. Or is it still possible that it could come back out of the grave? What do you see here, Will?
With a vampire is a great analogy, because with a vampire you have to be very careful to make sure you've actually killed it, right?
Yeah.
And that's the situation with DEI. But I will say, for the biblical scholars amongst your listenership, this does feel a little bit like the walls of Jericho are all coming down at the same time, between the EOs coming out of the Trump administration, which are going to absolutely devastate the federal bureaucracy side of the DEI complex. A lot of these agencies were pushing these companies to do DEI, threatening them with civil rights lawsuits if they didn't. That's all gone. These DEI offices are being closed as of 5 o'clock today. And so that's happening. And like you said, we've had a number of huge cases coming out of the Fifth Circuit. There was one against BlackRock and American Airlines just a couple weeks ago, attacking them and holding them liable for engaging in ESG. And then, of course, this one you just mentioned, which has actually been years in the making, but it's a coincidence. It's all kind of coming to a head at the same time. NASDAQ, the stock exchange, was basically trying to force any company listed on a stock exchange to hit race and sex-based quotas for their boards of directors, basically saying if you want to be listed on NASDAQ, you have to have a certain number of women and a certain number of people of color, I think is the phrase they use, on your board. And this is obviously a violation of civil rights law. This is antithetical to our conception of ourselves as a country, certainly in the year of our Lord 2024. And yet it took years of litigation to get NASDAQ to finally back off of it. And given the ruling that came down from the Fifth Circuit, NASDAQ has now agreed they will withdraw this entire requirement, and we will no longer have race and sex-based quotas to be listed on that exchange. So this is a fantastic victory. And to your point, it's coming from all sides. I mean, you've got these EOs, you've got these rulings, but we're going to have to keep on them, because just like a horror movie, you don't want the protagonist to think, oh, we've killed him, and you walk away, and then the monster wakes up. The Terminator.
Right? The Terminator movies, I always think about that. Every time you thought you killed the Terminator, and it's just like it would come back and still grab you with its bony skeletal hand, its mental hand, that kind of thing. What I've been concerned about, though, and is that many of these individuals who, of course, are true believers of the DEI and the ESG initiatives, what does ESG stand for again? It's like environment and social and government. What was that all about again?
Environment, social governance. And it was billed by its supporters as just another kind of investment strategy.
Yes.
What it really was a stalking horse. It was a facade to leverage large asset managers to push corporate America to engage in all kinds of far left agenda, basically. So whether that's net zero targets for companies in the environmental space or race and sex-based quotas with DEI in the social space. And then the governance was actually there as the enforcement mechanism. What governance was really a euphemism for is do what we want or we will replace your board and we will fire you as an executive. So the G is just there basically to threaten if you don't play along on the E and the F. That's
not fascism or anything, is it?
Well, it's something. It's the total state, right? It is the marrying of basically the Democratic Party agenda to corporate oligarchs and then forcing it down America's throat without ever having to face the ballot box. And that was really this all got started actually under the first Trump administration when the left had lost the White House. They went to the large asset managers, namely BlackRock, which many people have probably heard about before, but also Vanguard and State Street, and said, listen, we're not going to have the White House. We need all this forced down people's throats through the corporate governance structure.
Oh, so that's
going to these C-suites and saying, here's what we want, or we will punish you.
It's good to know that that's where a lot of this came from. And did Larry Fink agree with this? Yeah, he's the guy who ran BlackRock. Did he agree with it because he's a true believer, or did he see this as a money-making opportunity?
Well, I'd say he saw it as a money-making opportunity, but not in the way we normally think about, like, well, you sell donuts for more than you make them for, and you make money. Larry Fink's entire career has been typified by government favors. We probably don't have time to go into it, but he was actually one of the first people to help innovate the mortgage-backed securities asset class. And when the financial collapse happened in 2008, he was brought in as an expert to help parse the good assets from the bad assets. Well, lo and behold, which company got a slice of the best assets? BlackRock. And that's really what set them on their trajectory. He does favors for the Chinese government. And they don't push any of this nonsense over there in China. They only push it here. Well, they get all kinds of special government favors and permissions from that government in return for hamstringing the U.S. government here. So it's the same thing. He gets treated better by the government and got a bunch of sweet deals because he was doing the bidding of the Democratic Party.
That's really interesting. Now, Elon Musk is not necessarily in the good graces of the Democrats at this point in time, but he has, in essence, been a creation of government privilege, wouldn't you say, with the carbon credits and the whole net zero kind of culture. And isn't there something to be concerned about someone that close even advising the president? What do you think?
Well, to be clear, we should keep an eye on everybody. I don't believe anybody is above reproach, and when they start talking like they're going to go a different direction than what was promised, we should hit them for that. And we saw that with the H-1B debate that happened over Christmas with him and Vivek. And I think, obviously, there's a lot for anyone who followed that on Twitter.
Yeah, but isn't that one of the reasons why I think Vivek decided, hey, I'm just going to go run for Ohio governor, right?
Yeah, I think he was told to resign from the Doge thing, if you're reading between the lines on that. And that's not me. That's just been widely reported. So,
well, the bottom line here is that I think right. A lot of Trump voters were not really happy about the idea of voting for all of this in order to make India great again. That's all.
Correct.
All right?
Exactly right. And with Elon, Elon has said he actually doesn't need the subsidies anymore at Tesla, and he'd be fine if they got rid of them. So I don't.
Yeah, how convenient. No. Right. Will, how convenient that he's against the subsidies now after he's taken billions upon billions of them and made his empire from them, huh?
Oh, 100%. What I say, if you want my true beliefs on what Elon is up to, I think Elon was willing to play ball with the Democrats' narrative around climate change and all that nonsense because he always wanted. His big dream is to go to Mars. He's made that very clear. And if you look at his empire, every single thing involved in it is the kind of technologies you would need to operate on Mars, whether it's battery technology or rockets and everything like that. And so I think he towed the company line. By that I mean the Democrat, when they were in power and they were handing out these subsidies, I think he towed their line on that because it suited him. Now, I'm not defending that. I'm not saying that's okay.
That's just
that's
just real talk. That's just real talk. Okay.
Right.
Will Hild, once again, is the executive director, ED, of Consumers Research, consumersresearch.org. By the way, before I ask you another question about this, can you become a member? Do you become a member of this to enjoy it? What's the story there? Before I move on.
No, we're not a membership organization, but you absolutely can sign up to help our work. One, obviously, we're 501c3. We take donations. You can go to our website, consumersresearch.org, consumersresearch.org. But more importantly, you can sign up to get what we call our woke alert. And this is our once weekly text message that notifies you when a company has betrayed you as a consumer by going woke and sucking up to woke politicians. Now, the point of this isn't just to get you angry and mad about things that you don't have control. The point is to activate you to use your voice. And we always include contact information, whether it's a phone number or email or both, to let your voice be heard to these companies. That is more important in many ways than spending your money somewhere else. That's very hard to show unless you see something massive happen, like what happened with Budweiser. It's very hard for executives to know why sales are down 3%. Maybe it was because they did something woke, but maybe it was just because people didn't have as much money that month. Okay.
Yeah.
What's more clear to them is when they get hundreds, if not thousands, of phone calls and emails in reaction to something obnoxious that they've done. And that's what Woke Alerts is about. We have, I haven't looked, but I think we're over 100,000 subscribers. I promise this isn't a spam service. You're not going to get hit up every 5 minutes with, asking you to take some dumb survey or something like this. This is about creating an army of consumers to push back when corporate America is poking us in the eye. And so visit consumersresearch.org to go sign up for that. And become part of the solution to all this. I'm going
to go sign up for that today, and I appreciate that. I never asked you about what that was all about. Thank you. I'm glad you explained that. As much as we're talking about woke and DEI and ESG going down, there are some companies that are actually doubling down. And I would say Costco, the Kirkland Corporation, ended up coming out and saying, "Hey, no, we're just doing more of them." Is that another example of how not everybody is down with this right now?
Exactly, and that's a perfect example of why we can't let off the gas on this, or just think that Trump's going to sign a bunch of documents and this is all going to go away. I'm not taking anything away from what he's done, but we have to finish the job. And this is even if they got rid of the official DEI departments of these companies, which many of them have, those people are still there. That rotten ideology, that cancerous ideology, that racist ideology is still inside those people and inside those companies. Those people are going to have to be chiseled out, okay? Because they didn't go to the company to create value. They didn't go to the company to serve consumers. They went to the company to increase DEI, dominion over that company, and push it in a left-wing direction. So they're not going to stop doing that because that's all they know. And so those people are going to have to be rooted out. It's like when Boeing got rid of their DEI department, but if you look at the press release, they moved all the people in the DEI department to other departments.
Yeah, they just got reassigned. And I get concerned that, I know we've had things like this happen in the educational establishments too. And even when we have things like, you remember the restorative justice issue? Remember that with Nicholas Cruz over in Florida a number of years ago? The school shooter killed all those people, and how everybody knew that he was a violent problem, but they didn't want to do anything about it because under like a DEI type of program, the statistics looked bad for the public schools if they were to show young men and women being taken out for being violent or being punished, right? And so restorative justice is what they called it. And so everybody has gotten rid of what they call restorative justice, but it's in under a different name now. Even our local schools, in many cases, have those kind of programs still in there. And they call it some program about we're working hard to make sure that kids are kept in school. They put it under some benign thing. I get concerned that as time goes on, you'll say you get rid of DEI, but it reawakens under a different terminology instead of the way you people talk about it, I guess. What do you think?
Absolutely. No, I think this is something that we have to keep an eye out on in terms of rebranding. They're already dropping the E and switching to DEI, just D in the I, because equity, what that actually means is much like what you said with the restorative justice, where you had a disproportionate amount of one group or another being suspended from school so that they stopped enforcing the rules to even it out. This is the same thing. They have, if 13% of the country is black, for example, but 13% of the senior leadership of a company isn't black, they will claim that that's somehow evidence that the company is racist until they get up to 13% or more. It's the same philosophy, and that is illegal. That is a illegal racial quota for hiring and promotion, right? So they are dropping the E so that they can keep their DEI program. But the people who believe in that aren't going anywhere, right? Just dropping the E doesn't mean they stop doing it. So you have to go in and you have to find these companies that are engaging in race and sex-based hiring and promotion, okay? And you have to sue them and you have to make them pay. And at the point that they understand that if they get caught having one of these people on the staff and then they've engaged in discrimination, they're going to pay out tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars, okay? That's when those people start getting their pink slips and kicked to the curb where they belong. And that may sound mean, but if you've seen the level of anti-white, anti-male, anti-Asian, and anti-Christian discrimination that we've seen over the last 10 years, these people deserve to be fired. They have broken the law, and they need to be gotten rid of.
Will Hild, Executive Director of Consumers Research, consumersresearch.org. I'm going to sign up my cell phone, and hopefully you don't wake me up in the middle of the night with woke alerts. Do you do them in the daytime?
No. We very much in the daytime during business hours.
Good.
You will not be getting a 5-alarm woke alert at 2 a.m.
Yeah. I love that. It's amazing. Sometimes you'll get text messages from other companies or something that you're doing business with. It's like, you had to text message me at 1 a.m. Come on, man. Give me a break.
The intern switched the AM and the PM when they scheduled the text, and now you're woken up, right?
All right. Will, great talk. Thanks for the explanation of what has been going on. And, even though there is a Trump administration, there's still a lot of work that we have to do outside of that, okay? Thanks so much.
Thank you for having me on. Take care.
Will Hild,